Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. Today my friends at Holmes Mercedes in Shreveport, Louisiana have loaned me this 2020 Mercedes S560. Of course, the S-Class being the flagship vehicle for Mercedes. And we'll talk a little bit more about the features of this car and what you can expect if this is something you want to pick up. Besides the S560e, there is also new voice commands available that allow the driver to control some functions of the S560. No matter what engine you get in your S560, it's going to have plenty of horsepower. There are multiple options, and we'll take a look at what's under the hood of this particular model in just a minute. You can also expect that the S-Class Mercedes is going to have an ultra smooth ride no matter what road surface you're on. And all of that is customizable, and we'll take a look at that when we do our interior tour in just a little while. And before we open the hood on this S-Class Mercedes, I want to share a quick little tip when it comes to finding the hood release. If you simply pull up on the hood like this, you're going to hear where the hood latch is, because they're not always right in the middle as this one is. It's very easy to find, and of course I could hear that, so I knew right where to pull up as far as opening the hood on this particular model. Sometimes on different cars they're on the right or the left depending on what it is, but just a simple little way to avoid having to constantly look around and try and figure out where the hood latch is. On some vehicles it's a little harder to find than it is on others, so maybe that little tip will help you out. And here under the hood is the 4-liter biturbo V8. It's mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission and makes 463 horsepower and 516 foot-pounds of torque. All of that equates to 17 miles per gallon in the city and 27 miles per gallon out on the highway. Opening the trunk on the S560, well, there's 3 different options for that. You can use the remote. There's also a button just on the inside of the driver's side door, or you can use the release found here on the trunk itself, just above the license plate bracket. And you can use those first 2 options, the remote and the interior button, to not only open the trunk, but to close it as well. And when it comes to closing the trunk back here on the trunk lid itself, you have 2 different options. You see the 2 buttons on your screen. The button on the left, you push that, the trunk's just going to close. If you push the button with the lock on the right-hand side, it's going to lock the interior doors and also close the trunk at the same time. Ample cargo space back here, and I like the fact that there is a little bit of a hidden area right here. There's a little tray right here that if you push the button on that, you can pull that out. And on first glance, if you don't know exactly what you're looking at, it doesn't look like there's much you can really store in there. Until you push down on the center tray, you can see that it actually goes all the way down to the trunk floor, and you can store anything in there that you need to. There may be a very specific purpose for that. I just discovered that on the car when I picked it up today, so I may put that down in the description of the video, or somebody, if you know, you can put it in the comments. And of course, all you have to do to raise this back up and get ready to store it is push that button again. It's going to raise that area back up, and then you push the button and you can push it back in. And of course, we can easily close the trunk with the push of a button. Now, before we move to the interior, I just want to cover something that I think is really a nice feature here. Of course, the gas door is on the passenger side here, and all you have to do is push that to open it. There's no buttons or anything like that, and you just push it and it's going to automatically open on its own. No capless fuel fill. Tell me what you think about that. But here's the neat thing. A lot of people, I know there are varying opinions on capless fuel fill. Not only is there no capless fuel fill, but when you lock the doors on the S-Class Mercedes, it also locks the gas door. So if somebody wanted to steal your gas, they would have to force that open, and it would probably make a lot of noise, and you would know something was going on if your S-Class Mercedes is not garage kept. I like that feature. Now, upon taking a look at the back seat of the S-Class Mercedes, just looking in, it looks pretty basic. No frills practically. That is definitely not true. Of course, the entire interior of the S-Class Mercedes is so opulent. full of elegance, full of high-tech, fun features, and again, we'll talk about that more as we get to the front seat. But when you get into the back seat back here, you're going to notice that you have seat adjustment controls here. These are adjustable seats back here, and those are located on the doors, and that's the way for the front and back seats. So if you're in the front seat and you go to adjust the seat and you reach down on the side where they're normally located, you know, they're not there, obviously, right here on the door. And you have several different switches here. There's actually 4. So what are those for? Well, you have a switch to open and close the shade here on the sunroof. There is a rear sunroof as well as a front sunroof. And you have the window shades on the doors and on the rear window, and you can open and close those as you see fit. Dual air conditioning vents, and then a little compartment down here that you open up, and that will let you gain access to USB ports. So there are a couple of those back here. Now, one thing that I noticed, this is a 3-passenger back seat, but if you don't have 3 passengers, you can let down the armrest right here. There are 2 cup holders here. There is storage in the center console here when you let that down, the armrest, I should say. And there's also a storage bin that's somewhat sizable right back here basically on the back seat, I should say. The seats themselves are very nicely contoured and very comfortable. And of course, you have a little mirror right here with basically I would call that a vanity mirror, and there's a light right there above it. Doesn't really look like what you would expect, but there is one for both the driver and passenger, rear seat passengers, I should say, here on the right and left. And so you can take advantage of those. But if that's not cool enough, let's take a look at the lighting, and you can adjust that. You do that in the front seat, and there are so many different options that are available. You can change and customize that, and it just depends on what mood you're in and what mood your passengers are in. Okay guys, we're here in the front seat, and you have a push button ignition here, the start stop button for the engine. So you just put your foot on the brake, you're going to start the engine like that, and everything is going to come to life here in the interior. And you have several buttons and switches here on the driver's side door for raising and lowering windows. You have a sunroof right here in the middle with a nice shade on it. You can open and close all of that as you see fit. Seat memory settings for the driver and passenger seats, and there's actually 2 settings for that, so depending on who's driving and or riding, you have a couple of different options there. And like I said before, the buttons and the switches, I should say here, for controlling the seat settings themselves, for all the adjustments that are available on the driver's and passenger side door panels. They're not on the seats themselves. Nice feature, I think that's good. You have a switch here to control the lights. They're not automatic lights, although you can set them to be, but depending on how you want that to be set, you can toggle that around with the switch here on the driver's left. Steering wheel mounted controls. Everything's very simple to use and very self-explanatory for opening phone or answering phone calls, I should say, and adjusting the volume on the radio and all that kind of stuff. The shifter is located here on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. It doesn't really look like a conventional shifter, but very easy to figure out. Not a problem, because a lot of the time on some of the Mercedes vehicles you'll find that here in the center on the console. Not so with this particular model and others. And I have to say, the dashboard, the instrument cluster, the center screen, ultra modern looking. I like that. Very easy to use, and I'll show you how to use that, because it's not actually a touch screen, but that's okay. It doesn't take long to get used to how you do that. And you do have shifter paddles here on the steering wheel, and there are multiple driving modes available and multiple adjustments available for which mode you want to drive in and how you want the steering to feel, how you want the suspension to feel and work. So much here, and all the materials here in the interior are high quality. So, what you would expect. Well bolstered, comfortable seats for the driver and passenger here in the front, and of course the lighting. I talked about that earlier. You can adjust the lighting in so many different ways, and everything's very easy to get to, I think. All the different switches and controls right here under the air conditioning vents. For the air conditioner itself, cup holders. Now, before I get to the trackpad and showing you how to control what goes on in the center screen and make adjustments and all that kind of stuff, let's talk about the center console here. There is storage right here, and I like the fact that not only can you open it towards the driver, something I would like to see in more vehicles from more car manufacturers, you can also open it towards the passenger. It doesn't open this way, it opens to the side, and so I like that. Tell me what you think about that. And I realize that these kind of options are going to make the price of vehicles go up a little bit, but for some people that may very well be worth having. Now you have the trackpad here in the center on the console here, and that's what allows you to navigate and make adjustments here on the center screen. And for some people, they might think, I don't like that. I promise, it's easy to get used to, and before you know it, it's just no big deal. So obviously, touching the screen here, not gonna do anything. It's not a touch screen. You can adjust not only with the trackpad here, but there's the little wheel in the front. You can make adjustments with that as well. You can push that down to select whatever it is you want to select. And of course, you have the buttons here that are very self-explanatory for going back and making different selections here. And one thing I want to point out, if you hop into your Mercedes vehicle, maybe it belongs to a friend or it's just something you didn't realize you did, and the center screen doesn't come on, no big deal. Here in the S-Class, the button that I'm showing you on the screen right now on the right-hand side, just above the volume button for the radio, that's how you turn that on and off. Very, very easy to do. Just a simple little tip in case that's something you run into. And yes, you can turn the radio on and off, mute that, whatever you want to do by simply pushing this little wheel right here that is actually the volume control, if that's something you want to do as well. You just want to mute that to take a phone call or whatever the case is. That's how you do that. And everything is so easy to use right here. I really like the fact that you could realistically hop into this car and kind of use what I call the hunt and peck method and figure out how everything works. This is the first time I've been in an S-Class Mercedes, and it was not a problem to figure out and navigate my way around on everything here on the interior. Simple to use. I like that. It's not difficult. And there's a lot of other features here that we're not going to cover in this video, but tell me what you want from me if you're watching these videos, guys. Do you want me to do a separate video where I just talk about nothing but the interior features and functionality? Do you want me to incorporate that into these videos? What do you want me to do? Tell me what you want and I'll make that happen. Okay guys, we're gonna get out here on the road and do a quick little test drive. And you know, no reason to really get into it as far as anything that you're gonna get as far as the sound of the exhaust and all that good stuff. But the performance of this car is actually very impressive for being a luxury car, more of a touring type car. Now, I've made all of the appropriate adjustments to be in sport mode for basically everything, with the suspension, the steering, just sport mode for the way the car itself drives. And I'll tell you what, I really like the way everything responds. For me personally, that's what I like. Now, you might want to be in a different mode depending on your driving style and desires. And of course, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to do everything today because I don't have time. But I have to say, it is a super smooth riding car. And if the camera seems to be a little shaky on the tripod, don't let that fool you. That particular tripod just doesn't have good stabilization. But I know what these roads are like. I drive them all the time, so to have such a nice, smooth, enjoyable ride like this really speaks volumes of the ride quality of the Mercedes S-Class. Okay guys, that brings to a close my time with the 2020 Mercedes S560. And again, I'd like to thank my friends at Holmes Mercedes in Shreveport, Louisiana for loaning me this incredible car for the day. It has been so much fun to spend time with it. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button, because again, that helps me out so much. I know I always say this in the videos, but that's what helps to get this in front of more people. And this is what I do for a full-time living, so I appreciate your support by hitting the like button. Make sure you leave a comment. Tell me what you think about these videos. Tell me what you think about this. And of course, I asked questions earlier, so make sure you answer those in the comments section of the video. And if you haven't subscribed, please be sure to do so. And I will see you next time on Vehicle Visionary.